with Lynda Kinkade.
Well, the world #1 men's tennis player will not be able to defend his 2021 title at the Australian Open. Australian officials say they have cancelled Novak Djokovic's visa over COVID-19 vaccine rules. News that he initially got a medical exemption had been met with frustration and anger. Australia's Prime Minister says no one is above the country's vaccination policy.
Rules are rules. And there are no special cases. Rules are rules. This is nothing about any one individual. It is simply a matter of following the rules. Entry with a visa requires double vaccination or a medical exemption. I'm advised that such an exemption was not in place, and as a result, he is subject to the same rule as anyone else.
Well, CNN's Phil Black has more on this developing story.
As the world's #1 male tennis player, Novak Djokovic has hit more than his fair share of aces.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
But the Serbian champ's COVID-19 vaccination status has put his hopes of a 2022 Grand Slam out of reach.
Mr Djokovic failed to provide appropriate evidence to meet the entry requirements to Australia, and visa has been subsequently cancelled. So it's a matter for him whether he wishes to appeal that, but if a visa is cancelled, somebody will have to leave the country.
Local authorities had originally granted a medical exemption to Djokovic to compete in the Australian Open, and Djokovic proudly announced he was travelling down under on social media Tuesday. His post inspired outrage from Australian citizens who have faced some of the most severe lockdown, travel and vaccine protocols of any country since the pandemic began. And it's created an outcry over what some perceive to be special treatment for the sports icon. Australia slammed its borders shut for nearly 20 months before beginning to ease those restrictions in November, but only after achieving 80% vaccination among those 16 and older, with some states still requiring mandatory quarantine upon arrival. Victorian officials insist he received no special treatment, saying a handful of medical exemptions were granted via an anonymous application process, reviewed by 2 independent panels. The tennis star travelled to Melbourne Wednesday on a visa that did not allow vaccine exemptions, resulting in his detention in a room by himself at the airport for several hours while border authorities considered his case. Djokovic, who already contracted COVID-19 once in 2020, has made no secret of his anti-vaccine stance. During a Facebook Live with fellow Serbian athletes in April of 2020, Djokovic said, "Personally, I am opposed to vaccination, and I wouldn't want to be forced by someone to take a vaccine in order to be able to travel." His father is outraged by his son's airport detention, telling Russian news agency Sputnik the winner of 20 Grand Slam tournaments had been held captive. The incident threatens to create a diplomatic row, with Serbian officials demanding answers from the Australian government. The Australian PM tweeted a forceful defence of the decision to cancel Djokovic's visa, making clear that no one will receive special treatment, no matter how famous they are, saying, "Rules are rules, especially when it comes to our borders. No one is above these rules. Our strong border policies have been critical to Australia having one of the lowest death rates in the world from COVID. We are continuing to be vigilant."
Thanks to Phil Black. Well, CNN is following the latest developments from Australia and the world. CNN World Sports' Patrick Snell is here with us in Atlanta. But first, I want to go to Sydney, where our Angus Watson is standing by. And Angus, it really is an extraordinary turn of events. But I have to wonder how 2 so-called independent panels could approve this medical exemption in the first place in a country that has enforced some of the strictest restrictions in the world.
Well, Lynda, Tennis Australia did all it could to try to get their champion back to defend his Australian Open Grand Slam title that he won in 2021. Novak Djokovic is the king of the Australian Open. He's won 9 times. He was going for a 10th time. That was very exciting. For everyone here in Australia, we love to watch him play and we love what the Australian Open brings every summer. But we're also going through this deadly wave of COVID-19, this wave that's really fueled by the Omicron variant as well as the Delta variant, which is overflowing hospitals here. And those hospitals are seeing a lot of unvaccinated patients. And we know that they're at the most risk from COVID-19, of course. So the Australian government is saying that you need to have 2 vaccinations to come into this country. If you can't get vaccinated, we understand, but we need proof, the Australian government said. Tennis Australia wanted to furnish Novak Djokovic with that proof. We have to assume now that Novak Djokovic isn't fully vaccinated. He's never said that he hasn't or has had a COVID-19 vaccine, but he has now filed these documents to try to get into the country with a legitimate medical excuse. Now, when he turned up to the airport late last night, the federal officials there went over this paperwork and they deemed it not efficient, that it didn't match up with his visa either, and that he needed to be deported as somebody trying to enter Australia unvaccinated. And that's actually, Lynda, I must say, had a good deal of support here in the community. People have gone out and gotten vaccinated here in major cities like Sydney and Melbourne. Well over 90% of adults are fully vaccinated, and they've done that because they want to do their bit for society as well as protect themselves from COVID-19. They know they're very privileged to be able to live in a wealthy country with good access to vaccines, so they've gone out and done it. They want people coming here to fulfill that same pledge to be double vaccinated and protect the community, Lynda.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, it wasn't that long ago that everyone was pretty much under lockdown for a very long time. Angus, thanks to you. I want to bring in Patrick because this all started really in some way because Novak jumped on social media and tweeted that he was headed down under with a medical exemption. And people were furious in Australia that he got an exemption.
Yeah, there's no question. You know, how will history come to judge that social media tweet, Lynda? It's very interesting, isn't it? Just a whirlwind last 48 hours. You know, January the 4th, the day of that tweet from the top-ranked men's player in the world, grabbing the world's attention and setting off this whole chain of events in motion, everything that played out in the hours that he was on board that flight down under to Australia. Events taking place, very significant indeed. The tweet itself, Nole tweeting, "Happy New Year, wishing you all health, love and joy in every moment, and may you feel love and respect towards all beings on this wonderful planet. I've spent fantastic quality time with loved ones over the break, and today I'm heading down under with an exemption permission. Let's go 2022. Well, that tweet is highly significant. It set off, as I said, Lynda, the whole chain of events, and that vaccine exemption sparking, as you just said, an absolute backlash in Australia.
Yeah, so take us through more of the reaction, Patrick. I mean, his former coach has been speaking out about it to CNN.
He has indeed. Reaction has been coming in very swiftly indeed, right through the day and yesterday as well, from high-profile big names as well. Reaction from Australian great, for example, the 11-time Grand Slam champ Rod Laver calling on Djokovic to reveal the reason for the medical exemption for the Aussie Open. That was earlier in the day. And on that theme of greater transparency, some really interesting insights as well from Djokovic's former coach, the German legend and 6-time major winner, Boris Becker, who said it would also be in his best interest to openly speak about it and what he went through to get that special exemption. But this reaction as well from the notably straight-talking broadcaster and former player and former captain, in fact, of the US Davis Cup team, Mr. Patrick McEnroe. Take a listen.
You're entitled to have your own personal beliefs and take your own stands, but you're not entitled to impose them on other people all over the world, particularly when you're traveling from country to country. So it's his right to say, I don't want to get vaccinated, but it's not his right to then say, I can go to any country I want to and not abide necessarily by their laws.
To Patrick McEnroe there, Lynda. And look, this is what's so important as well, so significant. Djokovic really badly does want to play in the Aussie Open. He wants one more Grand Slam title to move on to 21. That would be one clear of the sport's other two legends, certain Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal. And it would give him the all-time men's record. But, you know, as of right now, it's not happening, is it? At least not right now down under.
No, it certainly isn't.
We're following it very closely indeed.
Well, apparently his team is trying to appeal, but I can't see that happening. Patrick Snell, good to have you with us. Thank you. And our thanks also to Angus Watson in Sydney.